I closed my eyes, and as I was laying there, all of a sudden, finally, I just shifted to my soul consciousness within the human form. I was no longer thinking of the suffering that I was in, of my human mind, of human consciousness. I noticed that I wasn't breathing anymore, but I was still alive. And right away, I said, God, I don't want to die. But I said, can you please show me the other side?
Jeffrey Saunders, welcome to Passion Harvest. Can't wait till our conversation today and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me on today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've got a whole list of things to talk to you about, but I guess I'd love to start, if you're comfortable, with your near-death experience.
With my near death experience and going through that experience, that was just a pivotal point to waking up to the truth to who I was within. And if I can actually go back to the beginning that led up to that point, um, because for the person who is watching today, and know that it may be triggering for some of the things I talk about, but I am not here to share the triggering aspect to cause people to feel stuck, but rather to give the solution for my life path in how it is that I overcame the things that I overcame, and through all my suffering that led up to my near death experience. So, going into my childhood, at the beginning of our life path coming here, for some of us, we didn't know the depth of the suffering that we were coming in for. We didn't understand because we weren't being the experience yet to take on, to learn, grow, and evolve through these experiences. And as a young boy, I lived through many different forms of suffering: inappropriate touching as a child, verbal, emotional, being bullied, feeling abandoned, all these different forms of abuse that I went through as a little boy, and being made to feel I was different from the rest of the other students in my class, and growing up to feel not worthy or good enough was my childhood. I did have a mother, because she will watch this, that was my rock of unconditional love. She always says, make sure they know that you had me. And I had my mother, luckily for myself, on my path to give me the unconditional love to help me through a lot of those experiences. But as I grew into a teenager, I started to feel deep, severe depression. And it was the first attempt of trying to leave this plane that I tried to do of an action as a young boy. And I had 12 more attempts of trying to end my life in this lifetime here. So I had many different forms of mental health illnesses throughout my life. I was diagnosed with manic depressive disorder, PTSD. I had severe ADHD, insomnia. I had eating disorder challenges that I had, severe anxiety, being around people, social anxiety. So I had a lot of struggles as a young man growing into my life, with addictions as well, many different forms of addictions. So throughout all those experiences, I started with outside help at the age of 17. And I that was the beginning of my healing journey, was at the age of 17 with outside help and being put into having a psychologist. And, I had about 150 sessions throughout my life of therapy. I had different group therapy sessions all throughout my life. I had all these different sessions, and I was doing all this work to try to feel better and to heal how I was feeling, but it only ever did so much. There was still a deep feeling of not feeling worthy or good enough to the truth of my light, to the truth to who I actually was within this physical form. Now, I was someone who was a bodybuilder and helped people for 20 years, being on steroids, because that made me feel worthy. Girls wanted to start dating me, guys wanted to be my friends. So I found this self-worth, but it was a false sense of self-worth. So I really identified myself because of how I looked physically. And I still felt like a little boy trapped in this big masculine body that I had, because I am 6'6". I am a very large man. I'm not short by any means, but it's fine. But that's who I was. So through medications that I was given in my 30s, they did help me, and it was a band-aid to help cover, to not feel the feelings I was feeling within, to help me with my severe depression that I was going through. And it also helped me with my severe ADHD. So I came off medications leading up to my NDE now. Um, this was the last one because I had many near-death experiences before, but this was the main one of actually leaving my body. What happened was I tried to end my life, and I went through an experience where I could feel my heart beating erratically and the suffering in my mind, because when you have severe ADHD, like my diagnosis at the age of 33, because I didn't know in my childhood, in the 80s, it was not a thing to really understand ADHD, a deaf or attention deficit from higher dimensions is why we have it, ADHD. Uh, but I suffered with the aliveness of thoughts in my thinking mind. And through all the suffering as a child, when we go through these experiences, we're actually in dimensions that we feel of that vibration from that experience. I mean, we'll get into talking more deeper into this a bit later. But through childhood, I had all these attachments that attach to our light body of energy, our soul body of energy. And these different attachments of vibrations then create the thoughts within our thinking mind. So for someone like myself who has for myself, I had severe ADHD. I had all these alignments to these different energies vibrating in these different ways of suffering. It created the thoughts, and I lived in that space all of my life. I lived in my thinking mind, and it was all of the suffering of that aliveness that made me feel not worthy or good enough because of the experiences that I lived through, and I wasn't fully healed from yet. So through overdosing myself, holding my breath, and my heart going erratic, I closed my eyes, and as I was laying there, all of a sudden, finally, I just shifted to my soul consciousness within the human form. I was no longer thinking of the suffering that I was in of my human mind, of human consciousness. And when I use the term consciousness, the way that I share it to connect with people is the aliveness of thoughts created within a space. So my human mind, of where I was in human consciousness, I noticed that I wasn't breathing anymore, but I was still alive. But I felt like I was in a coffin in my body, and I was shifting and moving around. And I realized that I just was my physical form was just completely stopped from functioning in that moment. And right away, I said, God, I don't want to die. But I said, can you please show me the other side? And in that moment, there was like, I'm laying in pitch black, I'm alive, moving around. All I feel is my body of energy, the aliveness of energy of who we all are within these physical forms. A portal window, basically, as best as I can describe it, opened up in front of me. And right away, I seen all these beautiful, vivid colors on the walls. It was like a giant room with giant pillars and these big, beautiful chandeliers. And as I was laying there, it's something I'm excited to finish my work here and why I've come here, but I'm very excited to go back to the beauty of what I seen and what I was in that moment. And I stared at the chandeliers, looking at the light and the beauty of the white light in the chandeliers. But then I just peeked in, I lifted up out of my body, and I just peeked in, and I started looking around at everything. But I couldn't help but to come back to the chandeliers and gaze at the light. And as the white light was coming from the chandelier, I drifted off into that space, but it wasn't meant for me to remember. I don't remember consciously coming back to my body where I went and what I did in that moment. All of a sudden, I could hear my mother. She wasn't there. It was made for me through a frequency to hear that she was outside my house, banging on the door, telling me to keep breathing, son, keep breathing. And that aliveness of hearing her voice, because she was always the rock of my life, of unconditional love, and the thought of my mother's suffering brought me back to my body of being aware back in my physical form again. And I could hear her just panicking and saying, the ambulance is going to be here. The ambulance is going to be here. And then I could hear ambulances pulling up. And then it was made to have me feel that they were in the hallway going through each door, trying to find which apartment was mine. And the fear from that and all that fear, I felt this shock. And then I could feel myself back in my human form, and my breathing was trying the shock, it was all wonky, my breathing of like coming back to the alignment of my physical form, and no one was around me in my home. And then I woke up and I sat up and I was like, is my mother by my door? And I stood up and she wasn't there. And I sat back down on the couch, and then I was just trying to grasp what just happened and unfolded. So from that point, though, from that experience and walking into my bedroom, I could then hear sounds in my living room going, walking back out to my living room, and I could see bodies of energy, of spirits, of soul energy, of beings, of light energy. I could see them like transparent through thin air, but their outline and shape of their body, it's a whitish blue, but I could see them 100%. I could see all these beings walking through my home, and animals just walking through, different forms of animals, different forms of beings of light walking through. And ever since that point, I can always see the energy that's around us. So there's much more that has happened from that, and I don't know how far you want me to go, but that was my experience. And since then, I've been fully awoken to the truth to who we are, to do the work I've come here to do. And I've had much healing with the elders in the pureness of light. And they showed me how to heal the energies that are actually attached to our light body that cause the mental health illnesses, that caused them for me in my life. It's the alignment of attached energies that are left unhealed, creating the mental health illnesses through all the ones that I had. I live in pure presence today, which we will talk about, I'm sure, throughout our show today, or your show today, with having me on. I don't have ADHD anymore because I live through the being of light of who I am. I don't live in my human thinking mind anymore. I live through the present moment of the truth to who we are. So I don't even suffer with ADHD anymore. So I've had all these different alignments, and it's been almost 6 years now. I've been working strictly. I don't even have a personal human life like I once did, because this is why I've come here, is to do this work and to help those who have not risen to the truth of their light yet, in helping and guiding them to freedom for what that means for them.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. What a profound, incredible experience. First, I'm just compelled to give a shout out to Mum, because I'm sure, as you said, she'll be watching this. Hi, Mum.
Yeah, thank you.
Lots of questions. You talk about, I mean, I felt your suffering, and in our humanness, we can suffer so much. But you
Yeah.
spoke about the reason for that, or for addictions, or for mental health issues, is vibrational attachment to dimensions. Was that correct?
Yes.
Do you mind explaining that and how we can rid ourselves of these vibrational attachments?
Well, we are beings to learn, grow, and evolve. And there are many layers to understand that we are evolving to understand here in humanity, with humanity, is rising to understand the eternal truth, the one eternal truth of all that is. And there's the best way for me, because I have been explaining this for a few years and I really try my best. I have a GED, took me 3 times to get it. Okay, you guys. I'm not someone who's like all this smart. I never went to school to understand anything. These are my personal experiences to understand them. So I try to share it in the best way possible from what I've learned through elevating into all that is at the core to learn and understand what it is that I'm able to share with you today. And it's understanding, I guess, I was trying to find a record to have to show, and I don't have a record because it's the easiest way for me to show it of understanding. And before I share this as well, I'm not here to make you believe anything. I'm just here sharing the truth of my light without any fear of judgment. There's no fear that moves through me of judgment. It is just me sharing the truth of my experiences, okay? So at the beginning of time, it's just imagining in this space of what I'm perceiving to understand from what I am being told from the light, is that all that is. So all that, what everything is, all the dimensions of space, all the consciousness of beings, of soul beings, of higher beings, angelic beings, Christ beings, and even higher light of what that means, it all comes to a main source of energy, of aliveness. And it's imagining like on a record, but there's like a ball of energy and it expanded itself, and its consciousness of the pureness of its light of what it is at the highest frequency of understanding itself expanded itself. Sorry, trying to get these words out. And it's like, imagine if you've seen a record and it has all the lines going around it further and further away. You have the core with the little hole in it for the big records, the little hole, and you have the center, and it expands itself. And then you have all these different rings going around. So imagine that every single line of a ring is a frequency. That frequency offers a certain vibration. The further it gets away from the pureness of light, it's a different vibration. Every single vibration is a different dimension of space. It offers a certain tune that plays through that space. And when the consciousness from all that is started sprouting out little beings of consciousness of itself, it started going through the different levels, going further and further and further and further away from its light. And those beings that came out at the beginning created and split off beings from itself to go deeper and further away to understand the frequencies that were there. So again, we are beings to learn, grow, and evolve. That is one of the spiritual laws that are made for all of us. We knew coming into these experiences that we were going to go through them. And I know when there are people that are stuck in their space of suffering right now, they can't see or understand that. I know I used to be there. I had a lot of hatred, a lot of anger towards others and myself. I had a lot of shame and guilt because of the actions that others did to me, and then what I did to others, and then carrying that feeling of not feeling worthy or good enough, right? So I lived it for those that are listening and watching, and I know there's much judgment sometimes from different people, and they're stuck in those vibrations of their suffering that plays through them, and they can't see outside of their experience yet because they have to do their healing work. They have to do the healing work that will bring healing to feel forgiveness for themselves and towards others. When we learn new perspectives, which I am desiring and giving today, are new perspectives that for those who are aligning and hearing me with what it is that I'm sharing, when you gain new perspectives you didn't have before, you can then feel forgiveness, because we only have the perspective of the level that we're still being in our experience. And when you have that desire to not feel that vibration of that experience of suffering, you start seeking outward help, to start trying to find, whether it's working with people who have grown, whether it's self-help books, audiobooks, whatever it is for each person, you know. So that vibration of that experience, what happens is, for instance, when I went through, and me and my father have a beautiful connection today, and there's been much healing done and stuff. So when I share on certain people, you know, to a certain degree, because I do have much respect for sharing with my family and certain things. But when I was made to feel that I could not be seen or heard, to be told to shut up, or to be told, um, you know, or the beatings, you know, that we had back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, it was more a common thing, and even further back to past generations. Until I heal those moments and bring alignment to a fragment of my soul, the pureness of my soul is stuck in that vibration of experience. It stays in there. Now, for those who have grown that understand the here and now, everything is now. There is no time. It's now. Your soul is stuck now, still in experience from the human past that we live, but your soul is still vibrating in that experience of not feeling worthy or good enough. So, whatever the vibration is that took you away from knowing how special you are, how unique you are, how beautiful you are just by being who you are when you first come here, any and all experiences matter. And any experience that took you away, any form of abuse, whatever that was a different vibration of action that came from that frequency, because others were not healed yet of our past generations, and they keep passing down because there was no healings that were provided for our past generations. We stay stuck in that experience, which vibrates through us, and it creates the thinking mind to then think of thoughts that you are not worthy or good enough as you live in your life now, as you're being who you are now. So that is probably the best alignment I can share with the vibration part.
You know, that was, and I love the analogy of the record. That was wonderful. So you talk about the thinking mind, and we can be stuck in this frequency. For example, someone who's experiencing depression. You also mentioned you were angry at what people had done to you, or perhaps what you'd done to people, and you were stuck in. I'm doing the record, the round record, but you were stuck in that vibration of, I guess, victimization.
Yes.
Someone who's experiencing that thinking mind that can't stop thinking about it,
Yeah.
how to move, and you touched on it, how to move, I'm going to say up a higher vibration. It might not be up, but how to move out of that darkness.
By seeking out with those who have risen, those who have done the work, that understand it, have the wisdom to understand as they have learned, they have grown and evolved from that space. Sometimes in different shows that I've been on, I'm in a space of joy and happiness in my life. I can talk freely about all my experiences. There's nothing that you couldn't ask me that I wouldn't share on. I'm freely open to share because I'm no longer attached to those experiences. I know I am not of those experiences. I was for 40 years of my life through all the work I've done. But it's reaching out with those, for those that you feel have something that you want. And it's reaching out to those such as myself and other beautiful souls who have grown from their suffering. They have different knowledge because they did the work for what it meant for them to find forgiveness for themselves. And one of the hardest ones through the different sessions that I've held is hatred. Hatred is a lower vibration. And if you're not ready to face your past, it's completely okay. But the challenge for each person is that you'll have more experiences where you perceive hatred and you're trying to feel better. But law of attraction, when I'm vibrating in a certain vibration of suffering of what it was for me, and all, there's many layers. Trust me, I'm still going through. I'm still go through things at time that align to me, but I'm in observation always and awareness, and then I focus on the healing to bring healing to those experiences. Um, but it's finding those who have done the work, right? And until you heal and start wanting to heal and facing the past, and believe me, it's so uncomfortable when we have to lift up that blanket and say, whew, I got some work here to do, and it's very uncomfortable. I understand. But until we do this healing work for what it means for each person to find forgiveness for themselves, for the actions they have done to themselves or towards others, when you start healing, from my perspective, when you learn how to forgive yourself, and this is something I believe it will unfold for me sharing deeper on later, when you can understand how to forgive yourself first, and whatever that means for each person is aligning to those to find it, or reading books or self-help books, when you can find it for yourself, it then helps to find it for others, because we're all the same. Those who harmed us and those that I harmed in my life was because what was done to me, to add that vibration, to allow that to move through me, which came through my human form to do those actions. Those who all harmed me were in the same space. It happened to them. Past generations happened to them. And it's just a trickling of past generations. But it's the hatred that we carry with the sessions I've had with people sometimes are very deep and severe. And you have to be ready. You have to be ready that you want to forgive, not for them, but for yourself, to not feel what you're feeling, because you're ruining, on a level of understanding, the relationship with the truth of who you are within, of the pureness of your light, and then also with others in relationships, because you'll be triggered in relationships because of the unhealed wounds that you still haven't done the work to face and to rise up from, to find forgiveness. So it's all these pivotal points that I went through. So since my near death, and right away, when I started seeing all these beings that were around me, I was trying to make sense. And I had a few friends. Again, I was a big bodybuilder. I didn't believe in really any of this stuff. Okay. So I had one friend. Her name's Jeanette Byro. She's a beautiful medium, someone who I really adore with her connection as well. And I knew her from a mutual friend. And I reached out to her and I said, I don't know what's going on. I see beings around me, and I'm communicating because I just talked to them, and then they move yes and no. And then that's how I communicate with the beings that I work with in the different spaces I work in. So I went to a spiritualist church, and it's actually from over in the UK. I forget which one. It could have been England, actually, because it's huge over there, right? Spiritualism. And she said, why don't you go to the spiritualist church? I've never even heard of this before. I'm like, what's that? And she's like, go there and they will help you understand your gifts more, and whatnot. So I told my mom, I said, hey, you want to come to the spiritualist church with me? I'm like, I'm kind of afraid. I don't know what to expect. And, I lived throughout my years as a Christian, as a young boy, as a teen, trying to find healing in these beautiful different spaces I had throughout my life. And I never heard of spiritualism or a spiritualist church. So I went there for a year, learned lots of beautiful things. But the main thing that I learned from them was the pillar of light. And the pillar of light connects to our main source of energy. And it's a beam of light that comes into your body. And then I'm aligned to connecting with that energy for healing. And going through this experience, it taught you to connect with your healing guide. So my first experience was with my healing guide, learning to connect with my healing guide, and my healing guide helping me in different ways through all the experience I had with them. And then one day I thought, I wonder if I can call archangels to my room. It was just in that moment. So I'm like, within 3 seconds, you connect instantly, like cell phone to cell phone. It's Wi-Fi halfway around the world. It connects instantly. Same thing with who we are within with our thoughts. It's faster than the speed of light, speed of thought. It will connect through the webbing of all that is to those beings. And instantly I had all these beings coming, shifting into my space. You guys are archangels, and they all shifted. They're here now. They all shifted over, yes. And I was like, oh my God, like no one, I can't even tell people this. No one's going to believe, this, what I'm going through. So I started working with them. And then 3-4 months down the road, I thought about Jesus, and I'm like, I wonder if Jesus will come. Out of curiosity, it just popped in my mind that day, because it was meant for me to align with him that day. And he shifted in my room. I worked with him for quite some time. Then and then working with his masters. And then it started, then higher beings of higher dimensions of light going into what we can call, that I've aligned to, of understanding of Christ energy that extends from our main source of energy. I started aligning to these beings. And if you've ever heard of the High Council that give access to our life here, they are of Christ consciousness at the highest space from our main source of energy. And they're the authoritarians, and there's many other authoritarians in different ways, but they're the High Council that give us access. And they started putting me through experiences. And it was through a dream state that they brought me to a past life of mine that I couldn't forgive myself. It was a past life. And because my past life, I couldn't forgive myself, I carried that feeling of not feeling worthy or good enough. So I brought that into my experience in this life, because more unfoldings will happen until I do my work to rise up. But they got me to repeat a phrase, and going through the experience with them. When I woke up, I felt different. I didn't feel the weight of what I was carrying. So through all these different experiences I've gone through with elders in the light, it released the layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, like an onion, more layers, more layers. You think you're done, no, more layers, more layers. I have the wisdom of understanding, because I lived through the experience to understand it, that I've taken everything I've lived through the process to releasing the layers that cause us to stay stuck in a lower vibration, then feeling the pureness of our soul being and the feeling of our connection back to, I know many people have grown and been and have hard lives because they heard the name of God and it was used in a lower vibration while they were suffering. So they don't even like hearing that term God. And I understand and I respect all people for what you believe. Believe me, whatever you believe in, you're perfect for who you are. But I use all that is in my life today. So connecting back to the extension I've been extended from to be in this body of that being, I went through all these different healings to reconnect back to the being that I'm extended from in the pureness of light, to now have this relationship and connection, because we are a team. And one of the struggles that I'll mention that's coming to me right now on sharing on is abandonment. I felt so abandoned by whatever this God being was, that if you are so pure and you are so good of light and I'm down here suffering, it just deepened the wound that I'm not worthy or good enough. But it was a false belief at the perspective of my suffering. It wasn't true. We work as a team, and unfortunately, but it's just the way it is. It's just what is. There is no good or bad through the work that I do. It's just what is. And understanding what is when we have these different layers that attach to our soul being through our suffering, it's like a wall kind of goes up. And every form of suffering, a wall goes up, and it weakens our connection to the being of light that we're extended from to learn, grow, and evolve here. And imagine Wi-Fi, same thing. You and me looking at each other, you're halfway around the world, well, eight hours ahead of me or 7 hours ahead of me. If I was in a building and I had all these walls that were around me in this building connecting me to the Wi-Fi, you and I wouldn't have a strong signal, would we? If there were, like, you're in a big cement building, we don't have a strong connection, because these layers have to be healed to do our healing work. And these layers are then removed, and then we have our connection back. We were never abandoned, never. And I've worked in the lower dimensions of suffering. I've worked in 27 dimensions of suffering, of those that are deeply suffering and stuck in. And through 3 years of working in what we can call hell, there's many people say hell doesn't exist. Well, using the intention of what that means. The lower vibrations of frequencies that are separated from the core of all that is. And like on a record, imagine out here, the light is not as bright over here and it gets darker. Well, these frequencies and the darkness offer different experiences of aliveness. And I went into going into these dimensions of spaces of where those go who are suffering, that are in there. And I started bringing healing and learning and speaking to each being, or all these different beings and these different vibrations. I actually started learning And because of what I learned from the elders that brought healing to myself, I started applying that to the soul beings in these dimensions. And I started learning by healing, bringing healing to these beings, that then I understand how to connect to the soul within the human form that suffers. So through my session, coming back to my session, as we dissected a little bit, I put into place, there's certain layers that I put into place. One is confession. We must get out the secrets and the things we hold with someone that we can fully trust. I've had different experiences with those that made peace with their God, but yet they were still suffering because they never did the healing work fully yet on what they had to do for what it meant for them. There's no one to blame anymore through the eternal truth of my understandings. There's no one to blame. It's just what is and what happens in these different frequencies and vibrations. And it's understanding for the person who's watching me now and listening now is that whatever you have done to another in some way that harmed them, if you look back at your past and whatever that experience was, it happened to you. Someone had to have brought you to that space that was unhealed, and then you carry that weight. If you didn't live through the experiences, and we all lived in the pureness of light coming here, we didn't have any attachments, and you didn't have those frequencies and vibrations attached to your soul body of those experiences, you cannot do harm to another. You must have the attachment of the frequency and vibration of that form of suffering, that aliveness release. We don't have willpower here like we believe. Because when you have darkness attached to your soul, that aliveness moves through your soul's consciousness and causes your human form then to do the harm onto another. And then you're like, why did I do that? I know better. It's because the feeling took over of the different energy that's attached to you to cause harm to another. I've aligned back to the light energy of who I am within. So even now it's all energy. All I feel is energy, but I'm moving and speaking through this vessel of who I once was. And, even rising up to this place, I've lost a lot of people in my life, family members, my children, one of my children, think, it's not real and it's crazy. Old friends I had, most of them don't talk to me. All the gym people friends I had, they don't talk to me. Yeah, I've had many people on my path think I'm crazy and there's something wrong with me on their level, but I understand. I don't blame them. There's no judgment for me because I see the end picture. I see that if I stick with what I am doing and I don't stop and I keep thriving with what I'm doing, we're all going to rise at the end. They're going to understand at the end. They're going to see, not that I'm doing it for other people, but I was shown that we'll all be together at the end of it. So if I was in my thinking mind and thinking throughout the day, this stuff would probably bother me a lot, but it doesn't bother me. And it's just because I know that we're all going to align at the end, and they just don't understand, because they haven't had experiences yet, right? For awakenings. So.
And when you say the end, you mean when our physical body dies?
No, the end of
So
the
there is an
human
end
consciousness.
point.
The end on a level of the human consciousness that does not understand the eternal truth that's within them. You hear about the heaven within you, or different parts. That's what I live in, the heaven within me, the alignment to the light of who we all are within. That's who I am and what speaks through this human form. But it's very hard for people to see that truth because it sounds crazy, and I know that it
No,
does sound
it
crazy
doesn't
to
at
many.
all.
No, but to many, right? To many, not
Yeah.
for those, because you've had experiences to show you the difference, right? And you're accelerating in your life through having more experiences, rising up to the same place that I am sitting in. It's just we're all equal. There's not one being better than the other. Even when I went into the lower dimensions of suffering, they were my brother or sister that have not had the healing work that they needed to rise back to the truth, to their fullness of their light. And I had these core understandings as I went into these lower dimensions that there are siblings. Each of us has a life path And many different life paths of whatever our soul has gone through of our evolution of being is unique because our experiences are all different. What we have done has been different through our growth of it. Not one being of light is the same as the other. And when we have that understanding and we look at the core to all that is, it's sprouted its consciousness out into the oneness to learn, grow, and evolve. All beings are of the core of all that is right in the center. We're all the same, right? So there is no, we're all equal, right? So even those who are suffering and those in deep suffering, they're just as equal because I was there. The same as yourself with any kinds of forms of experiences you lived through of what suffering meant for you, you can align to those that are in that
Of
vibration.
course, of course.
And right. And it's beautiful. I've just taken my experiences from this life and the other side of higher light and lower light or lower dimensions. And I've just taken the wisdom I've gained through my experiences that caused me to rise back up into the pureness of my light. We can all do that. We're all the same,
Oh, you
right?
make
At
it
the end,
sound so easy.
it is easy. That's why I'm like sitting here doing the work I'm doing. And, when I speak to different elders and my team of beings that I work with and stuff, I've had to learn patience on many levels because it is still challenging for me to be in this body and to feel the separation from everyone, because I feel what they're feeling and they feel maybe worried about me and they've taken on a burden because of my life path. And it's a part of their growth as well. It's a part of their learning and growing as well at the end of the day, right? But it is so simple and so easy to rise back up to the truth of our light. It is so easy, but it's just understanding the things we need to do to get there. I don't want people, personally, for me, I don't want people to have to take 40 years, 30, 40 years to rise up to their light. I don't want that for them. I want them to feel the truth of their light and to understand what they have to do for healing so that they too, can rise up because at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters of light energy living this human experience.
When you
No,
say you go to other dimensions, whether higher or the lower dimensions, how do you do that in meditation or when you're sleeping? How do you experience that?
so yeah, with there's so many different alignments. It's just, what I can share with people when you feel joy, you're in the dimension of joy. So if you wish to feel joy, do things that bring you joy. You are then in that dimension of joy in the light, right? When you want to feel, for myself, on sharing, worthy or good enough, I mean, I am that alive this now, but for those who are watching, it's feeling unconditional love for yourself. When you can feel that pure love for yourself, you're then in that vibration and dimension of space. That's that one part. When I started going to higher dimensions, you can't go higher just by going the desire to go higher. You have to have beings of consciousness to come down to your space and bring you into their space, has been my experiences. So if you want to connect with, say, the angelic realm, so for the archangels and ascendant masters, and I do align with Jesus within this space when we're working, that's what has aligned when we're working together, is all in alignment with this space. It's, for most people starting out, just laying there, closing your eyes, and having the desire and asking Archangel Michael, can you shift into our space right now? And his energy now will shift into our space because we're asking for him, right? And if you're in a space of your evolution where you're able at that point, he can take your hand of your soul and bring you into that vibration of that dimension of space, of frequency, right? It's just through the deep desire within you and the pureness of your light, of your desire. You can have a dark desire and desire to go up into the light of different spaces, of asking for different beings to come. You're going to stay in that. You can't trick vibrations and energy. There's no trickery that can be done unless you're in that dimension of lower spaces. Believe me, I've been through them, and they trick you because you're in that space, right? And then they want to trick you to stay in the space with them. But it is the deep desire within you, and just laying back, closing your eyes. I mean, we can do a guided meditation quickly at the end of the show too, if you wanted to. But it's
Sure.
just that is just the practice. You know, when I first started with the severe of having severe ADHD at the beginning, of going into learning, what helped me was laying back, putting earphones on, because now I'm not hearing the distractions around me. Because if you have distractions around you, it's going to take you out, and you're going to be within your surroundings again, and it's going to take you out of the dimension of space. So when you put earphones on and you close your eyes and you just focus on your breath, and you just breathe in with the intention, the pureness of light, and you breathe out all that does not serve you, and listen to a guided meditation. That's what I started listening to, guided meditations. And the practice that I put into play for myself was to listen to the person speaking. As soon as I stopped listening and I started thinking, I would then catch it and come back to listening. That was the beginning. I believe that might have been even before my near-death experience. But that was the practice for me that I started trying to do, was to focus and be present with what I was in, which was the guided meditation, listening to his voice. That was the beginning. Then it turned, after my near death, it was feeling my aliveness of my energy within this human form, focusing on feeling. Because when you focus on feeling, you're not thinking. You can't focus on feeling and think at the same time. It's too hard to try to stay focused on feeling something, because then you'll start thinking. It takes you out of feeling and observing, right? Because you're in your spot, in your space of thinking. So, you know, for meditation and wanting to connect, that's all you really have to do, from my perspective, is just be in a space that is quiet, that is sacred for you, laying there, and then ask for Jesus to come if you're someone who connects with Jesus. Ask for archangels if you're someone that wants to connect to that, to them, or ascendant masters, or to your God, the being that you're extended from. Ask for him. My God being will shift in right away when I ask for him to come to me, and I ask questions to him, and he says yes and no, and he answers my questions, and then we just communicate like that, right? I have me and my God being that I'm extended from are tight now today from not being tight and feeling abandoned, you know, in my earlier years. But you can ask and lay there, right?
Simple, but yeah, very, very effective. I've got two more questions for you,
Sure.
if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned before you've been recently connecting with the Palladians about what is to come. What is to come?
They're in, well, it's not what is to come for humanity. It is what is going on within my unfolding.
Okay.
And whatever assistance, because there are higher councils within the angelic realm, within the Palladian alignment for them with the space that they're in. You know, there's typically higher council of those dimensions of space, and typically whenever I call in, like it aligned to me. The High Council of Palladians, when they shifted into my space, I just asked them if there's any assistance as I'm working in the light, working with the other higher beings of light, if they see there's any assistance they can do to help me for the unfolding of my path. And they're also an observation for what it is I'm going through, because they're also learning and growing with what I'm going through all that is in the pureness of light of what is happening with me through this experience that I'm in right now. So that is just where I'm at with that. And any assistance I can get as I'm working in the light, and any different beings that come to me each moment of different days I have an alignment to, I'll then ask for their energy to shift in. As long as I'm working in the light, I'm pretty much done working in, I'm not pretty much, I am done working in the lower dimensions for the time of space that I went into them to understand them and to bring healing and to learn, and then to bring it to humanity through my understandings to share in the way that I'm able to share through my experiences. But that is the extent as far. I'm not someone who is in alignment to share psychically or to tell you the future or to tell
Yes,
you.
okay.
But I will tell you this, the light has already won. We're just unfolding to it. So no matter what this human experience is going through, it's downfalling all the things that need to downfall as we all rise up to the eternal truth. And one other thing, my cat's being silly. One other thing is I will speak on as well is for the extraterrestrial beings that are coming in. And I have gone through many dream states of connecting with hybrid children that are coming into this plane. The different beings of extraterrestrial that are in that space of higher consciousness. We are all the same, and there's no fear to be had. And with Emma, can you get down, please? With higher beings of extraterrestrial, they're in a higher space of consciousness. Okay, they're the same as us, but they're in a higher frequency of being that they've risen to through their evolution. They're the aliveness of the soul body within their vessel. They know they are not their vessel. They're connected to all that is. They're in that space. They're learning and growing the same as us. They're just as humanity, but they're just in a higher space of their evolution. But there's no fear to be had, because as these unfoldings happen in this world and things are removed that will be uncomfortable for this earth plane, but it's all to rise up as we all rise up to the eternal truth, to be connected to the eternal truth of who we all are, to feel the aliveness of your worthiness, of you being perfect just for who you are, and to start learning to become the observer of all the things around you. It's not happening to you, even though through our experiences of whatever suffering forms that might be, we believe it's happening to us. It's not. It's actually happening for you to learn, grow, and evolve from. But that's a hard one. And some
It
people in
is. It doesn't
spaces
always
can't
feel
see
like
that.
it.
I know, and I know. But as we align back to the core, as we align back to the being we're extended from the light, and we know we were never abandoned, and we've completed and done our healing work for the different things that we had to do to rise up, to release the feelings that we felt, the different forms of mental health challenges that people have here. When you release these vibrations of lower energy from the light body of energy, you no longer feel the weight of your experience. It's why I can speak on all my suffering experiences and the things of the past, because I am not of those experiences. I have lived through them, but I am not of them. And I don't feel the shame, guilt, hate, anger that I felt anymore, because when the vibration of those frequencies are removed off the light body and you've done the work to release it from the light body of your soul body within your human form, you can have thoughts of the experiences and talk about them without any feeling of attachment of what it felt like in those moments, right? So as we do the healing work, we connect back to the light of who the truth, eternal truth to who we are. We have our connection. Then we're in a space of observation of the things that happen around us in the simulation that we're in, because it's basically what we're in, a simulation. Everything is happening for us to keep us evolving of our soul being within our vessel that we're here exploring through these experiences.
Oh my gosh, now I've got more questions, but I
That's fine.
first of all,
Whatever
where's
you
the
have.
best place for people to connect with you? And I will leave a link as well, Flo.
I would so appreciate that, in the description or whatnot, or even
Yes,
pin
in the
it to
show
your
notes.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I will give the links, but it's emailing me at thepurenessoflight@gmail.com. That is my email.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I guess if you don't mind doing a brief guided, in the concepts of time, a brief guided
Oh
meditation
yeah,
for
for
the
sure.
audience,
Mm-hmm.
that would be wonderful.
Time doesn't exist. I'm all
No.
good. We're in the moment. Sure. absolutely no driving if you want to go through this experience um, while going through this with me. Okay. And for those that are watching and listening, if you have headphones, please use them because it's going to eliminate the distractions around you. And it's very easy to be distracted and taking out of the present moment to feel the aliveness of your soul body. Okay. And feeling, excuse me, the aliveness of the angelic realm in going through this experience. I will bring in three beings or call in three beings through alignment right now. And those are the ones that align with it. So Jesus will be one for those that wish to feel the alignment to Jesus. Archangel Michael, I will bring in for the second one for those who desire to feel the connection to Archangel Michael. And Ascendant Master Merlin. So he is a great healing angelic being, okay? And he's also a magician. So he's been a beautiful brother of light of mine, of working with at the beginning, since the beginning. So already I feel so much joy and light and excitement for them to connect with those that want to connect with me today in going through this. So have yourself in a relaxed position. I typically like laying down because your physical body, when you're sitting, if you're seated, you start shifting way to feeling your physical body and you're like, oh, my lower back, oh, I gotta, twist or turn. If you're laying down or even reclined, you can really immerse yourself into not feeling your physical body or taking yourself out of alignment for that. Okay. So if your eyes are closed, and if you have headphones on, if you don't, that's okay. Do the best you can. Okay. And you just close your eyes. And what we do first is focusing on our breath. But as we focus on our breath, it's imagining, using our imagination is huge. So if we just play along like children right now, no judgment, no analyzing or criticism in any way, shape, or form, imagining we are like children. And imagine we want to play within the light. And it's focusing on your breath. And imagine that you are breathing in the pureness of light, the highest frequency of light. And it's allowing yourself, just using your imagination and the deep desire within you, that you are breathing in the pureness of your light. And with each breath out, breathe out all that does not serve you. Energy you may be holding on to within this moment, of any form of suffering, of aliveness within those spaces, of any attachments to you. Imagine that you are breathing that out with each breath out. And as you're doing this, it's bringing all your attention and awareness to feeling how the air feels as it enters into your body and leaves your body. If you have thoughts in your thinking mind, that's okay. Just catch it when you do and come back to focusing and bringing your attention to feeling how the air feels as you breathe in the pureness of light, as you breathe out. Now, even in this recording, allow me to step in the pureness of my light. Allow me to step into your space with you of where you are, just by saying yes within your mind. Asking in your mind for all fears and obstacles to be removed for your highest good, saying yes now, and allowing those walls to be removed. And in this moment, it's allowing the pureness of light to leave from me in this moment to you. And it's breathing the pureness of light in through the top of your head and allowing it to flow all the way down to your toes. Just observing, not having any expectations, just allowing yourself to feel the light energy moving through your being for your highest good. Allowing it to bring healing to any energies from all that you have heard me share today in this recording and interview. Aligning with the perspectives that you have learned from me today for your highest good, to come back to the worthiness of knowing you are so perfect and worthy. You have just lived through experiences that took you away from your light, because we've come here to learn, grow, and evolve through them. You are perfect for who you are in this moment and have always been. And allow those words to vibrate through you by just allowing, and the deep desire to bring healing to what you have gone through in life. Now, through this recording, I'm going to amplify the power of the light moving through you by you allowing it to happen. To allow more energy of more light moving through you to bring healing for your highest good. And I will amplify it even higher. And higher. And breathing that in and allowing it to flow to where it needs to go. And again, I will amplify the vibration of the pureness of all that is, even through you, even higher. Now, in this space, just observing any sensations and feeling, allowing yourself to feel the aliveness of light moving through you in this moment. And for each person, if you align to wanting Jesus to step into your space, Archangel Michael or Ascendant Master Merlin, pick one now in this moment. Through your deep, deep desire of wishing to feel their presence, will shift into your space now in this moment. Not thinking, but allowing yourself to observe the sensations within you and around you. It's asking them for your highest good on any assistance that they can bring you to your life, for the help that you may need, and allowing their light to shine upon you now in this moment as they are within your space. So happy to be here with you. And feeling their aliveness of the joy and light of who they are. And as they know your worthiness to who you are, and the warrior of light to come into this earth plane for these experiences that you have gone through, they are here to assist you now in this moment as they shine their light upon you. And it's breathing in their aliveness of light in this moment. Breathing in and allowing it to flow to where it needs to go. for your highest good. It's taking your left hand, of your physical left hand, and placing it over your heart, allowing the light that's moving through you to move into your heart space, to bring healing to the experiences that have been lived through that took you away from the pureness of the light of who you are. And it's cleansing and clearing. The walls are being broken down that have separated you from the pureness of your being that you've been extended from. And just allowing those walls to be washed away, leaving down your feet and into the earth, allowing Mother Earth to cleanse, clear the energies that are no longer needed on your path as you have learned new perspectives today through this session. An interview, feeling forgiveness of understanding for yourself. And if you are ready of understanding all others are the same, and if you choose allowing forgiveness in this moment for those who were not healed, that took us away from the pureness of our light, because we are releasing the attachments that we no longer wish to feel as we move forward from this day. Breathing in again the pureness of light into your being, into your heart space. And it's allowing now the being that you have chosen to place their hand upon your hand on your heart space by saying yes in this moment, and just observe the sensations within your hand as they place their hand upon yours. Feeling the energy of their aliveness moving into your heart space, amplifying the power of healing to you, to the core of your soul, and washing away with what no longer serves you as you move forward from this very beautiful interview that was done today. And now in this moment of feeling much gratitude for all the energy of highlight energy and consciousness of beings that are within this space, saying thank you to them, and allowing yourself to feel, if you wish, they will hug you now in this moment. And just observe the sensations as they are so grateful to be here with you, as am I. And now slowly they drift away. And now it's taking a nice deep breath in, feeling your physical form. Breathing in again, coming back to the space within your room, and slowly opening your eyes when you are ready.
That was perfect. Beautiful. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for allowing us all into your
Oh,
space
what a
today.
wonderful way to end the show. I love that
So
guided
beautiful.
meditation. Thank you very much for being on Passion Harvest. I'm blissed
Thank
out
you.
now from that meditation. That was wonderful.